There you go.
Hi,
What's your
I'm
name?
Marge.
Marge, I'm Caroline.
Hi, Caroline.
Nice to meet you.
Caroline Ewan?
Yeah.
Ewan.
Ewan, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Nicholas Kenner.
Yeah, hi.
Len Moreau.
Yes.
Hi.
You said it right. Yay.
He's been trying all morning. What's your name?
Tim.
Tim? Nice to meet you.
Woo.
Yeah.
Holy moly, can we get a fan in here?
Jonathan.
Jonathan Carroll.
Nice to meet you. Yeah, I've seen you guys.
I've destroyed my book
Yeah, oh no, that's
so
fine.
I can scan it.
Ooh, nice.
So-
Yeah, that's great. Okay.
And George liked it so much because I was doing what they call focus props.
Yes,
He put it on his site, so I feel honored that happened.
Great,
So there you
that's
go.
so cool.
He looks like a jester or something, so we couldn't really solve this until one of my friends came up and oh, that's a full-blown cover. This is called.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, the covers
like
with the little
top.
things on the top. So we had no idea what all
They
that
don't get
was. but
bored or whatever, right? Yeah.
his friend, he was really smart because his parents were like in academia. It's like, you know, his mother's a teacher, his father published a bunch of stuff. So he was like one of those super smart people who just know this shit. Like he had solved the Quintain, the jousting dummy guy. Of course, because you know he's jousting dummy, and he knew the name of it already right off the bat way back then. It was silver, not gold. Interesting, because Liberty Chimol was part of this. That's not far from here.
Right. Well, I'll tell you one thing that Sandy told me about this location. Have you been to this? Where are you from?
Originally in Lowell, Massachusetts, now in New Hampshire.
Okay, so you know this well. One interesting thing is Price annual ball was taking place in Boston. So I suspect that what he did was he was looking for a place to bury him. And they had a day or two. And then down the park here, and then kept on walking. And this is kind of where it was when you go walking. So it's sort of
I don't blame you. I'm gonna get a signature, his autograph as well.
The statue was.
yeah. That's it's so you used to be white. You see that white marble block over there? Yeah. That's where it was. So
That was the Christopher Columbus statue right there, right? Yeah.
statue.
That's what I figured. Yeah.
It was removed maybe 3 years ago or so.
Yeah.
It had gotten splattered with red paint and it had been sort of defaced a number of times. Yeah, over the years, there's been all sorts of issues with it. The city of Boston about 3 years ago decided to take it down. Yeah, that was kind of the starting point, right? I mean, if you look at the statue, that's pretty close, or what was the statue, pretty close to the figure on the front.
It seems like there's no doubt about that. We should say no doubt.
Oh, cool. Yeah, nice to meet you.
Oh, yeah, nice to meet you too.
I'm happy to sign that someplace.
Yeah.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm Chris Freitas.
Hi.
I'm Deb. We're down here from Lowell, so we're,
Oh, great. Okay, so you're-
we're kind of local.
You're
Yeah,
local,
kind of
right.
local. One pizza on our
Oh, certainly. Yeah, absolutely.
We went back out and watched us. We went back out that night after we found out that it was normal. I didn't know that at the time. This is not my original. So I did have my
That's awesome. Thank you so much for doing that.
Oh, certainly. Yeah.
That would be great. Very kind of you. Thank you so much.
So you guys are local.
Yeah, we're local. Yeah. So it's really exciting to see that you have money. Yeah.
All right, let me get in there and get a picture.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So were you guys searching for it?
No, nobody. You want to know the funny part? We were actually at a conference in like a different state, Baltimore, and we were like, we woke up early and we're like, you know what, we'll turn on the side special. And you're on it. And we're like, wait, I know.
Yeah. No, this is literally the spot where it started. Right?
That's so great.
Trying to figure it out from there.
And with your family. That's really
with
good.
the family, yeah, unfortunately, the family couldn't make it. So,
Well, it's the weekend, so you know, right?
there's kids into the year activities. And stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, really nice to
Yeah,
meet you.
nice to meet you.
For coming down.
It's good to meet you too.
Yeah, y'all you're not leaving yet, are you?
No, we have to. Yeah, unfortunately, we have train. Yeah, catch the train back.
It's also
Yeah, it was very nice meeting you. Hope you have a wonderful.
Do you mind miking up? Yeah, thank you. Just so we can.
I'll take care.
Williams how we do it, basically.
You can just go in your pocket. Let me start a new file, actually. Here, I'll just start.
See, they made the trek.
Yeah.
Have you been to Boston before?
Yeah, I love Boston.
Yeah. This is it's great that everybody could kind of come down and all right. So let me.
Perfect, thanks. I don't want to miss any good conversations. I like your shirt. That's fitting. I love it. Other way.
Are you gonna be able to pick it up?
You could even do it on the right or your left.
Let's see. All right, there we go. Yeah, that's all right. I think I got it. All right, you good?
And then this can go in your pocket. Sure. Right. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, thank you for coming down.
Awesome. It's awesome to meet you.
Yeah, I was just saying that that Sandy, his widow, told me that he used to love Faneuil Hall, which is right over there.
Yeah.
And when I had always thought that the woman on the front looked a ton like that statue.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah. Oh, can we get a picture?
Oh yeah,
Sorry.
sure.
Thank you.
I think I got some good
Thank
for
you.
you.
Thank you, guys.
I'm out of the rain. I'm out of the rain.
Oh, it's not raining.
Bye, you guys.
Hey, I'm gonna go do that. Can I get one picture? Sure. I'm sorry, I don't want to play you. While he's doing
Want a
that.
selfie?
With all three of us.
Let's do it. Oh, yeah, sure.
I'm going to guys.
Can we take one for you? Oh,
Yeah,
no,
thank you.
This is what I do. 1, 2, 3.
There you go. Thank you.
Oh.
Crazy to meet
You
you.
too.
Here, let me hand you that back over here and your
Thank you.
pen.
Thank you so much.
And I've never actually seen an original book. It's very cool.
Thank you. Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the view. Bye.
It's better than the reprint.
Even if it's glossy, it's still.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish they were able to reproduce the book in a more modern way.
Signing that book.
Sign that one along.
Oh, got it. All right, so do you want me to sign this?
Yeah, sign mine too. Yes. Anywhere.
All right.
I mean, this means a lot to me because nobody else has it. Never seen the bells.
All right. Let me grab this over here. George, have you been over to the site yet? You wandered over?
Yeah, it gave me a ball.
Oh, really? That's a sign of some sort, right?
I was surprised it was like an astroturf.
You all met up before?
Oh, you want me to sign this? Sure.
That was a request.
All right.
That's fitting. Yeah. I'll see you at home.
Right on.
There.
Nice.
All right. Well, I actually brought the treasure along,
Oh, yeah?
so I can bring that out. I'm sure some people would be interested in seeing it, so I can.
Definitely.
Hi, how are you? Hey, Jason. Nice to meet you. Oh, that's all right. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad everyone's had the opportunity to visit and.
Are you a drinking man?
Oh no, I actually don't drink, but I appreciate the offer. Have you been down to this site before?
Yeah.
Right before you found it, I had 3 trips to here.
Oh, really?
So yeah, it was right before I started getting to the community, and I think I jinxed myself because I said, "Man, I just wish Boston could be found."
Yeah.
Bam.
Yeah, a little bit of good timing and luck, and
Great job, man.
yeah, we never actually expected to find it. I mean, everything that they said in that episode was, I mean, it was a TV show, but there was nothing that was really untrue or embellished. It was basically they stressed to me that they really wanted to capture it kind of the way it happened, and yeah, it's pretty incredible.
And going and asking and saying, "Hey, I think something's here," because that's exactly what I would do.
Yeah.
See, I didn't go to the north end. I was thinking where they said that the foot in the baseball and the sleeve.
Yeah.
I thought it was a hairstyle.
Right.
So that's
I was not certain until I got that text message 6 months later that it was actually there. I mean, it seemed like a good spot, and if you sorry, Christina.
That's my fault. No, that's
yeah, and if you think about it, if the starting point was this Christopher Columbus statue right over there, and that's really the way that I started. There are no other parks within walking distance other than Langone Park.
Yeah. Like the 5 steps were like, what the hell is that?
I didn't quite know what the 5 steps were. I just knew that I had to figure out some way to get from that statue to Langone Park, and within half a mile, there's no other possible spot. And then when I actually walked over to Langone Park, and you see the water and the stairs behind you and all the rest, it feels like it's the right spot. And I worked about half a block over here, so I would come by every single day just trying to make where I thought it was fit back into the clues. And then we got lucky with the construction workers. If they hadn't been there that day or that month doing that project, it probably still would be dug up or buried below the home plate. Yeah.
Do you think that the Thucydides was part of the library, or do you think it was the writing talking about the Don next Don is in Boston?
I've never quite figured it out. I suspect it has to do with the library and a reference to the New York puzzle, but I got stuck on that for a long time because it seemed like you should start over at the library, but I'd never figured out quite how to get to the library from Christopher Columbus Park. So I kind of ignored that piece and just went right to Christopher Columbus Park and went from there. So had to make some sort of logical leaps.
I'm starting to do that because Charleston is my hunt now. I've been there 5 times, and I think it's on Sullivan's Island personally.
Yeah.
And right now I'm just like, it's got to be dug twice. I hit something, thought it was just a rock. Now, personally, you're the second person I've told this, I think it's a cover over it.
Really?
Because of a hurricane. I'm trying to think, like maybe hit back.
I don't know how many of these are still recoverable. I mean, I think
at least 3 depends. But I'm in the same boat with you. It depends.
Yeah, I mean, Boston is really the only one I've focused on. I've done a little bit of thinking about New York and San Francisco, but Boston, just being my hometown, was the one that I really doubled down on and spent time thinking. So, yeah, it was pretty extraordinary experience to actually find it. Oh no, that's right. No. And I actually brought along the treasure, so I'll bring that out. Yeah, I was just gonna kind of say hello, and then I can go run and bring it out.
Here, I'm so happy you're here. So
well, no, I'm thrilled to be here. So thank you for being so welcoming. I appreciate it. Hi, how are you?
Hey, good.
Hi.
I'm Tim.
Hey, Jason.
Hi, I'm Marge.
Hi, nice to meet you. How are you? Where are you guys coming from?
Michigan.
Okay, wow, it's a big trip.
A little bit.
Yeah. Have you been to Boston before?
Yeah, we just came about a month ago. We got to see the site, and I sat
cool.
there and read my book. Felt right at home.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Yeah.
It was so cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'm a photographer. So.
Okay. Have you been searching for one or some of them, or?
We're Milwaukee people.
Okay. Right. All right. Well, good.
We're branching out. We started looking at Charleston lately. But
yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. You've got that one's not that far from your neck of woods, right?
So.
Okay. Yeah. Can you dig at it, or is it not? You need a permit or one of those question mark sorts of things, right? Yeah. Okay. All right. Right. Yeah. Well, I was telling those folks that had it not been for the construction crew, that thing would still be below
I know.
home plate.
I was hoping for a Boston Miracle, but
Of all places,
I-
that one. That's
yeah.
not just one you're just gonna go dig a hole.
No.
No.
That was that
Not
was
like in Lake Park.
that was a miracle.
and it was about 3 feet down, is what they told me.
Wow.
So it was,
Okay.
and how he got it in there, I have no idea. Right? I mean, he must have dressed up as a construction worker, or maybe they were doing construction on that area at the time. Because I mean, if you have the opportunity, we can walk over there later. But it's like the equivalent of just going and digging 3 feet deep in the middle of the day in the summer.
Yeah, it's not that easy.
You would attract attention. So how he decided on that spot and digging that deep, I don't know.
I
So
wondered that too, like, why
yeah,
right there?
yeah. But I guess Palancart said that this was the third easiest of that they've been found in roughly the right order. So if that one's 3 feet below home plate, I don't know how hard the rest of them are to find.
I
Yeah,
think Boston leads directly to Milwaukee.
yeah. Right.
I've blanked out on why right now, but
They probably all look easy when they're found. In
I think
hindsight,
one
it probably
leads
was.
right
They all look easy when they're found, right? Yeah. No. In retrospect,
Most
I mean,
difficult of the 3 found, it would make it the third easier.
no. I mean, I think when you're over in that spot, it really does feel like it's the spot. That's the way that we felt when we were over there. That you can see the water, you can see the stairs, you can see the signal flags, you can see the Tobin Bridge with the green tower lights. You've got home plate. When we were actually there, I was like, if it's not here, I don't know where it is, because there were too many things that lined up.
Right.
And if you're going to start with, the Christopher Columbus statue, who I always thought that woman was, there's no other park anywhere nearby where it could possibly be. So it kind of had to be in that spot. But even when I was talking to the construction crew, we just didn't know until, and I was shocked when I got that text message from them.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
I spent a year waiting for a call like that.
I literally dropped my lunch. My office. I work about a half block from here, and so I was just going into my office and eating my lunch, and then I get a text message from the construction crew, and literally there it is with a picture of the Casque, and so pretty. So
I think it'll be that way with all of them. I think finding the park is the hardest part.
Yeah.
I think once you're in the park, once you're there, everything's obvious. I think in Cleveland, once you're there, the columns are there. It's black and white. No interpreting, nothing. It's
the only
to Cleveland before coming.
Oh, you did?
Chicago. Yeah, we've been to Chicago.
So you've been to all the sites.
We've been to all three.
Oh, great. That's good.
The ones that are found,
That's exciting.
And we walked up the steps. We were gonna leave, and we were like, we gotta walk the steps. So we went up. And then at that cemetery right there's 5 steps coming down from that. So if you're coming from this way, that way, and you're going straight through there, maybe that's the 5 steps. Maybe it's a literal 5 steps. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's a double clue.
It might be.
I took a picture of it and posted it.
You may be absolutely right. I've definitely read other community members
I never would have known that had I not walked up though.
That think you start at Paul Revere's house, and then those are the 5 steps. That may in fact be it. I don't know, and we'll probably never know.
That's
right.
That's the
I think a
hardest
lot of that
clue,
is
the
finding the park is difficult.
And the 5 piers, if you walk it, it's 5 or 6 piers. So it felt like that
I fully was with you on that until I found those steps.
Right. Okay. Well, it's not gonna take much to convince me
that. I wonder
that.
what they looked like on Rand McNally on his map, like back in the day. Like if
right.
it was 5
right.
back then.
Yeah. Well, we're lucky in some ways that Boston, being such an old city, hasn't changed that much, at least down in that area over there near the North End. So you still have the Tobin Bridge, which I think is probably the Green Tower of Lights. You still have the big poles over the light, which at one point were painted green. You still have the stone steps behind you. You still have the water in front of you. You still have the Constitution with the signal flags. So most of it is there. And it's still a baseball field, so you still have the feel at home. So maybe.
It's just so cool to be there and see it.
Yeah. No. It was quite an adventure. So I appreciate you guys coming out and saying hello, and then
It's an honor to meet you.
Oh well, I appreciate that. I've got I actually have the treasure over in my car, so if time permits, I'll bring it over, and anyone who wants to take a peek at it.
Gemstone?
I've got it all.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so I'll bring it on.
I'm excited.
I'll bring it out. I hope people.
Parts or pieces.
I've got the whole thing. Yeah. I'll wander over and
Can we
get
take
it.
a picture?
Oh, certainly. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, he's gonna take
want to meet you first. Can we face this
Yeah,
way?
yeah, absolutely.
Sorry.
Are you with a good background?
Come over here, hon. Over here. There you go. I'm a photographer, so
All
I'm
right.
talking about it. Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, here.
Just real quick. 3, 2, 1. Left middle. You're too cool, man.
Sure.
Don't say her name precise. Don't say it precise.
Right on.
Hey, really nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah. Stick around, and hopefully we can all get the treasure, and we can wander over if you have time. Oh yeah, no problem.
Oh, you want a picture of both of us?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Oh.
Ready?
Yeah, all set.
Three cheese. I got you.
Thank
All
you
right.
so much. Awesome. It's so
All right, nice to meet you as well.
Yeah.
How you doing, Jason? I'm
Hey,
Richard.
hey, nice to meet you. How are you?
All right.
Where are you coming in from?
Buffalo.
Oh wow, okay, long trip. I don't think you have the record for distance, but getting pretty close.
No, Tennessee's got
Yeah. Have you been searching for one or a bunch of them for a while?
New York in Buffalo.
Okay, New York and Buffalo. Okay, so you're one of those. I'm. You may be right. I'm not. I don't know New York that well, but they're definitely.
They get filled up in Manhattan or anywhere else.
My one issue with Buffalo is the immigration community. Is there a big commute?
Nikola Tesla.
Okay, all right.
He's not Russian, but he's Croatian.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
electric.
Right.
Niagara Falls. Took
Okay.
Niagara Falls and lit up the city.
So that's interesting. So that could be something that Byron would have been interested in back then. Yeah. Right. Yeah, I'd always thought that the north end of Boston was a pretty likely spot just because of the Italian connection. So, and it felt like the 18th day, 12th hour, that all felt like Paul Revere. So it seemed like that was a good spot, and given, Cleveland and Chicago connection, an Italian connection seemed pretty good. But yeah.
So you were reflecting on the other treasures as
Just with respect to the Italian and immigration connection primarily, which just felt like if he was to pick a community in Boston, it's kind of Italian and Irish is kind of what Boston's most famous for, but there's no real Irish destination. There is a North End, which is all Italian, so it wouldn't be crazy to imagine that that's where he would have thought to have placed it. And what I learned, I don't know if you ever heard, but what I learned from Sandy, his widow, when we were getting the gem later on, was that Faneuil Hall, Quincy Market, right over here, was his favorite place to go in Boston. So I suspect that he was here on a 3-day weekend, hanging out in Faneuil Hall, and I learned this all, after, but looking for a park in which to bury it. Didn't know the city that well. Didn't want to bury it right here because on a July afternoon it would have been just like this. So starts wandering around looking for a park, and the only other park is Langone Park, which is like a 10-minute walk away. So how he ended up putting it below home plate or why, I don't know. But you can imagine that maybe they were doing construction on the park at that time, and there was a hole in the ground where they were going to put home plate, and he went and put it in there. I don't know, but yeah, in kind of Monday morning quarterback, that definitely seemed like a possibility.
Did you use Google Earth a lot, or?
So where I actually started was looking for coliseums. So I thought the word coliseum was one of the most sort of suspicious words, coliseum with metal walls. And I was like, why would he use coliseum? And there's just not that many sports stadiums in Boston. You've got Fenway Park, which seems sort of too urban and too obvious. And so I started to kind of identify where all the coliseums could be. And there weren't any of them that were in, other than the Boston Garden, which is kind of over the shoulder of where the Casque was eventually found. There weren't any of them that seemed as likely as that one. And my kids were actually figure skaters, and they had skated at that metal building, which I think we now know is the Coliseum of Metal Malls. And so, to answer your question, it had stuck in my mind forever that there was this strange metal-looking Coliseum in the North End in a park that was within walking distance of Christopher Columbus Park. And so we tried all of the other spots. We went to the Three Seas location. We went to Boston University because I thought there's a Martin Luther King connection. We went to, there's a kind of an old Coliseum near Harvard that's actually on the water that also seemed like, because In Truth Be Free is tied to the Harvard motto. And so we tried a bunch of different locations, but the one that seemed like it fit the best and that was tied to that idea of a Coliseum with metal walls was right over here. So yeah, we got a little bit of luck, a little bit of timing, ended up working out pretty well. So grateful for you to make the trip, and I'll bring out have the Casque, so actually go and grab that in a little while. Yeah, really nice to meet you.
Want me to eavesdrop, but yeah, it's fun. Matthew.
Hey, Jason, how are you?
Down from Canada. Good. Yourself?
Oh, great.
Yeah.
How far in Canada are you?
Near Ottawa.
Trip?
Between Ottawa and Montreal.
Okay, all right.
So my puzzle there.
Same. Okay, yeah.
But, yeah, just listening. The rink, Streaky, or whatever the name of the rink is. The Coliseum. I thought was kind of like the play with Italy too, right? And
yeah,
kind of a bit of a connection there, and then just a sports venue.
Yeah. So, have you been down to the site?
Not yet.
No. So maybe we can walk down a little later.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you walk to the other side of the Coliseum, is where you see the Boston Garden.
Right.
Which isn't.
It's not far.
And so it's literally almost within sight of the location. Yeah. It doesn't have metal walls, so I'm not sure whether or not that was actually the Coliseum.
The rink?
No, so the rink has metal walls,
right.
But the Boston Garden,
yes.
Which is like just over the shoulder of the rink, and you can see it from the rink, doesn't have metal walls. So I suspect the Coliseum with metal walls was actually that Storetti rink, kind of that unusual rink.
Yep.
And then when you are in that spot, I mean, it's what I said in the episode, but it's really true. Like when you're standing at home plate, you can see the water, you've got the stairs behind you, you've got the Coliseum with metal walls, you've got two different sets of green towers with lights. You've got home plate, you've got 3 ball fields, so the middle section. It all just sort of seems like if it's not there, then I don't know where the heck it is, right?
It just feels right.
Right.
You get to, like everyone says, you get to the right spot.
Yeah,
and it feels right.
Yeah, and we weren't 100% sure that it was below home plate. We thought that there's a flagpole, or at least there was there, that was pretty prominent as well.
Okay.
But home plate sort of seemed like, with the clue, feel at home, that it was kind of the most natural.
Because a lot of people felt like that was more of an emotional connection, right? But
when I talked to the construction worker, I gave him 3 different spots. I said I thought it could be flagpole, below home plate, and I'm going to forget the third one. And what they told me after they dug up part of it was they were kind of slowly, with my kind of email in mind, they were slowly digging around at those 3 spots. He said that when they were doing the excavation at those 3 spots, that the construction workers were specifically kind of taking it easy, digging by hand, digging with a shovel, because they had somewhere in the back of their mind that this crazy guy had sent them an email 6 months earlier. And I didn't, because I never received a response from them, I suspected that they had ignored the email altogether.
Sure.
So I work only about a half a block from where we are now. So I would jog by those basically construction gates almost every single day, kind of peering over and thinking, man, like they're going to dig this up. They ignored my email, and one of these days I'm just going to be able to, I was thinking about how am I going to climb over the fence when I actually see it sitting on a park bench.
I'm kind of in that, with Montreal. I'm a verse 8 guy, which is connected to Milwaukee, of course.
Yeah.
It just seems like all the lines line up super well. The Japanese hints, support it really well. Right. And I guess because anyone that used verse 8, they got up to a certain spot and then they got stuck in the middle of the woods and trails and stuff. But Montreal, they don't use traditional compass points. They use a nearby river as their reference point. So when I learned that, it's let's try that directional thing, and that led me to a certain spot behind the chalet. Spot. And that kind of led me to, everything else fell into place at that point. And even just like Chicago had its fence and fixture, I've got a little spot, a little badge above the leg eater in the Montreal, lines up with the back of the chalet, and It just feels right.
Yeah, is it a spot where you have to get a permit to dig, or?
I got contacted the city, and
tough deal, yeah.
And the thing is, I want to say the early '90s, they declared it a heritage site, provincial heritage site. So they're not
going to happen.
No interest at all. So that, and right now they're doing a lot of renovations and fixing stuff up. So it's like I'd never do it, but it's like man, just jump the fence or find a spot.
Right.
Give it a try.
Yeah, well, I was in the same boat where it was sitting there, I thought, for several months.
Yes. Can you
Sorry, you're going to have to move on.
Are you cutting in? Is that what you're doing?
Just wanted to make some stuff.
So where do you think it was in that field? Do you think it was under home base? Or around it? Or?
No, I'm confident that it was there. It was directly under it.
Okay.
Yeah, so we actually walked over with the construction crew using their GPR unit. He told me because home plate was no longer there. But he then, because I had that same question, I was like, was it 10 feet away? Was it directly under? Yeah. He walked over with the plans and with his GPR unit and said, we dug right here. And that was that was Mitch, the excavator controller, who actually dug it up and said, and the reason that they were digging there, and this is one of the crazy parts of this story, is that they didn't dig 3 feet deep everywhere in that park. Yeah. They just needed to get a piece of conduit, a pipe, specifically below home plate. Yeah. So for the most part, they were only digging it like 12, 18 inches deep. The only place where they were digging 3 feet deep was below home plate, and he buried it somewhere between 2.5 to 3 feet deep. So the level of sort of serendipity of that 25-acre site, that was the one place that they had to dig 3 feet deep.
You were so smart to tell them that. You were so smart to go to them and tell them. I mean, that was great.
Yeah, well, as I was mentioning, I wasn't positive it was below home plate. I thought there was a flagpole that I thought it was below as well. Yeah. Because it seemed crazy that in the middle of a summer day, we'd go and dig up home plate and actually stick it there. And that's where he did it.
Well, looking at, the world books, encyclopedias, seems to be maybe there's a connection with the Milwaukee Rebus thing, and maybe he used that set. So for Boston, there's a map there, and for the north end, the ball field is actually labeled as a playground. So I wonder if he used it. Yeah. Did he maybe see it as a playground?
Interesting.
And expect, swing sets and stuff, and then he gets there and sees that, oh shit, it's.
Oh really? I didn't actually know that. Yeah, no, that's kind of fascinating.
And then he just kind of, that's the spot I need to go, so let's go do it.
I suspect that it wasn't that well planned out. I suspect that his widow told me that he loved Faneuil Hall and Quincy Market as his, a place where when he came to Boston, and I suspect he just was looking for a park. He literally had it in a duffel bag. Sure. And then maybe they were doing some sort of construction or something, at the park at the time, and he threw it in a hole. Or maybe it was because the earth was soft due to the fact that it was, a ballpark that he felt like it'd be easier to dig there. I don't know. But it seemed like, or maybe he thought that it'd be secure there for, years and years. I don't know.
Hard to say.
But, kind of fortunate that the timing sort of happened to work out right, that I happened to be looking for it at the time and working down here and suspect that it was there and all.
One that goes to talk to the crew, and there might have been others that had the same ideas, but maybe they just were apprehensive, right? And you had the guts to go and talk to them.
Well, yeah, I walked by there probably 10 times before I actually decided that I was actually going to talk to them, just because it seemed like a crazy thing. And I wasn't anywhere near 100%. It just felt like it was there. I was really surprised that it was actually there when I got that text message from them 6 months later. So
6 months, really?
Maybe 4 months.
It's not like weeks.
No. So the story was that I was kind of working in the area. I would go for jogs after work. And then one day I was going for a jog sort of late afternoon, 3-4 o'clock, and it was kind of a day like this, but really hot, and I was coated in sweat. And as I was jogging by for like the 10th time, I was like, I should just kind of walk on and just talk to them and tell them. And there are all these like no trespassing signs and things. Not that it's so ambitious to walk onto the field, but it just felt like, there are all these guys in hard hats. I just didn't feel like it was totally appropriate. But I just happened to be jogging by as the foreman was closing up for the day. So he was kind of driving out and locking up. And so I was like, all right, here's my opportunity to kind of chat with him. But I was coated in sweat because I'd been jogging, and it was a really hot day, and the sun was down, kind of shining down, and I was trying to describe it to him, and I was out of breath, and showing him on my phone this story, and he looked at me really like I was nuts as I'm dripping sweat on my phone, and he can't see the image, and he was like, yeah, I don't know, just send me an email. And then he handed me a card, and then I wrote him this 6-page email, and my wife, I showed it to my wife before, and it had all this detail and the pictures of the previous cast that had been found so that he'd know what to look for. And I showed it to my wife. She was like, no, that's crazy. Don't actually send that off to him. And I was like, yeah, what the heck? And then 6 months, 4 to 6 months went by, and I didn't hear from him. And then I get this text message with a piece of the cast that they'd dug up. So yeah, so it's exciting.
Crazy feeling.
Yeah, I literally dropped my lunch. So I was like, wow, it's, you know.
It was, of course, with many other people, the episode that got me into it.
Oh, well, great. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad it comes full circle, because I mean, it was, as soon as they found that piece, I got a hold of Josh Gates, because that same rationale, which was, I'd kind of heard about it somewhere in the back of my mind, but I hadn't really focused on it until that episode. So I figured that, if there's anyone who's going to be interested in cataloging it, it was.
So was there discussion of, EU and stuff before you found it? And was that a thing? Or?
No. So my one fortunate connection is my brother is a reality TV show producer, which has no bearing on this at all.
Sure, yeah.
He just happens to work in the industry in Los Angeles. So I did exactly what they showed in the episode, which is that I sent him an email to the Josh Gates at DiscoveryChannel.com, whatever his default email, with kind of all the pictures, expecting that within an hour I'd get a response. Of course, no response came for a day. So then I contacted my brother. And my brother went and contacted his contacts at Discovery Channel. His contact at Discovery Channel said, yeah, seems kind of interesting, but we're not interested.
Because they had done other episodes before that too.
Right, they had. I think they'd done 2 episodes. They'd done two episodes.
Gotcha.
So Discovery Channel came back. Whoever the producer was came back and said, don't care.
Yeah.
So then I was like, I don't know what to do now. I guess nothing. I guess I can. I'll message George, who I didn't really know. And then I'm sitting in bed with my son, who's like 7, 8 years old at the time, and we're kind of talking about what we should do. We've dug up this, or the construction crew has dug up this fragment. What should we do? And I'm just sitting there with my phone, and I get a phone call from a Los Angeles number that I don't recognize, and I pick it up, and it's Josh Gates.
Really?
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
You're not.
So I was like, I'm sitting with my son in his bed, reading him a story. It's like 9 o'clock at night, and talking about how we're going to get in touch with Josh Gates, and then there's like a LA or Burbank number, and I'm like, I wonder who this is. And he's like, hey man, I heard you had some interesting news. And so, and then he was like, so I'm actually calling from the Indian Ocean. We're doing an exploration at some island, but I want to come back and kind of help you dig up the rest and chronicle it. You guys can be around in 3 days. And I'm like, sure. And so he flew a crew around literally 18 hours. And 3 days later was in Boston helping us, dig up the rest and chronicle it. So kind of a whirlwind, just a fun whirlwind week.
Yeah, I've got a 7 and a 5 and a 3-year-old. 7-year-olds, he always wants to look at the images and the verses and stuff.
Well, yeah, I would have never done it except for my kids, and that was
something to do together, right?
That was the entire. I mean, none of that was embellished at all in the show. I mean, it was really just a family activity that we did.
Something to do, get out on the weekends and.
Yeah, we'd go out on a day like this and
explore, right?
Right, we'd go out on a day like this and be doing something else, and then kind of wander around and be like, water, stairs, right? This seems like it could be. So,
congrats.
Well, thank you. Really nice to meet you guys. I'm going to say hi to some other folks.
Absolutely.
All right, I'm going to bring out the cast a little bit. Hi, how are you?
Boston picture is there. I don't think you can see it unless it's too dark. This is bad copy. In the other copy of this, it's not my copy. You can see like these little divots like here that people use to count the times. But
I'd never noticed that before, but I think the sundial and that pedestal was actually a meaningful part of it.
but at the river walk that's right there,
Right.
At the edge of the park, there's like stones, and they are divoted like a deer, like along the edge of the park. And so
That's interesting.
I thought that kind of matched
It may very well be. I mean, there's a lot of detail in that puzzle. We tried to get as much additional information out of John Jude Palancar when we were there meeting him in person, and but that never came up. I think that's actually a really interesting point. It may very well be. Yeah.
I was just wondering what
No,
you
I think
thought about this.
I'd always thought the hourglass was tied to her in some sort of meaningful way. Yeah. Well, I'm maybe going to go get I actually have the treasure in my car. I'm actually maybe going to go grab that.
That's my squee moment.
All right, I'm going to go grab that before anyone. Nice to meet you as well. Before anyone disappears. Hey, Christina, I'm going to go actually get the treasure because I think people would probably be interested in seeing that. All right.
We get a drum roll, please.
All right, you want it up here? Oh, sure. All right. There's the pass. There's the gem.
The auction starts in 5 minutes. No reserve.
Yeah, I know. They're like, what is that?
Oh, God.
Ready? All right, there you go. I'm worried about sweating on them. What it's going to do to the plastic.
Look at that. Look at how beautiful.
That's your secret pin card?
These are those are the pins that we got at the event. Yeah.
Wow. What is that?
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that.
Those are the secret pins.
I'll end up
Trip on
the treasure. Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah. So this was and then here was I always found this interesting with the plexiglass as well. What he put it in, and there's tape on each piece.
Like tape, like do you think?
Yeah, did I?
You can leave
Oh,
that,
sure.
just that part.
Yep.
I just want to make sure it's still rolling.
Like tape, do you think that they taped it?
Yeah, let me just start a new one because I've spent an hour.
Casque. You know what I mean?
Good. Okay, perfect.
Like on the plexiglass? Do you think that, Jason?
What's that?
Do you think that the tape was to hold together?
George may know. There's
Do you feel like they made the gas put them in the plexiglass?
I think so, but
right, and then maybe labeled them. That's
maybe the tape is sort of in an odd spot, so I'm not quite sure what the intention was.
There, that's this.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah. Just the up.
Hilarious. But it's like.
Well, that's cool. You got a bottle.
If I just may
Oh.
congratulate.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Appreciate
you
that.
Have done something in this community that none of us can brag about.
Well, I really appreciate it. I mean, it was a little bit of luck, a little bit of timing.
You know what?
So we're just kind of fortunate that
Some of us
we
have
figured it out.
debates on if it's a puzzle, if it's something. It's a game, as well as everything else, and you won the game.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, that's kind of you.
Thanks for telling me it was delicate because I misheard you. Man.
Well,
I know you've had time with it, but is there anything that surprises you about it?
I think the vibrancy of the colors is really amazing, and actually the construction where there's sort of this yarn or string that's below it. I'm surprised. I mean, so what you're seeing is where the excavator hit it, right? I mean, so basically, like,
just broke it up.
It was intact. It was intact, and you have this giant machine that's coming down below home plate, and he just cracked it open, and he told me that the first thing that he pulled out of the ground was the plexiglass.
Yeah.
So he hit plexiglass, and he wasn't expecting to see plexiglass, and that's actually what made him go slower and kind of try to dig around it. And then he started getting more pieces of plexiglass, and then he got one of the big pieces, and he was like, this might be the thing that crazy guy was looking for. And I didn't tell this story in the episode, but it's pretty incredible that he found it at like 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, dug up the plexiglass, dug up a bunch of these pieces, and was like, yeah, I think this is what it is, but that's it for my day.
Time to
punch out. So he literally took it and he put it on a park bench. So this was all sitting that Saturday and Sunday for a whole weekend. Now it was within the construction zone, so it was fenced off, but it was just a bench that was sitting there. So anybody, and there was no security around it or anything. So anyone could have walked in
like a box. Like
no, it was just literally these pieces. Just he threw on a bench. So he was like, yeah, this is I think what that guy was looking for. I don't know. Time to punch out. So he then mentioned it to somebody at the office, and nobody really thought that much about it. The CEO of the company, it's a big construction company. They have sites all over the place. He hadn't been to the Boston site for a few months, he told me, and this was driving his daughter to Logan Airport that week, and he was like, yeah, I'm not that far from that Boston site where we're doing a lot of work. I think I'll kind of wander by and see what's going on. So he walked into the construction zone, was just checking around. It's a 25-acre site, and he said that there was something that sort of drew him to this one park bench. He wasn't quite sure what it was, and he walked over to the park bench, and the CEO of the company saw all this stuff sitting on the bench. He was like, that's that thing 6 months ago that crazy guy said he was looking for. And so he went and collected it all and brought it back to the office, and then on Monday morning they sent me the text message. But the likelihood of them digging in that one location, they were digging only 1.5 feet deep across the entire park, except for below home plate. Home plate, they had to go 3 feet deep because there was a piece of conduit, basically a pipe that they had to get to. But if they didn't have to get to that pipe below home plate, they would have never found it because they weren't digging deep enough. So it was of the 20-acre site, it was like 1 10 by 10 area that they were actually digging 3 feet deep.
So this could have been covered by 2 more feet of something.
Exactly, yeah.
So, all right,
everybody's screwed here.
Your first moment, this guy contacts you and says, I think we have something that you're looking for.
Yeah.
Do you... Sorry if everybody's recording. Shit your pants, or do you say I need to get myself together and figure out what the next step is?
I literally dropped my lunch. I was in the lunchroom in my office just having lunch. I get this text message, and I can show you the text message where he says something like, "I think we found what you were looking for." And yes, then the expletives came out. I was like, "Holy shit, yeah!" So then and he said, it's in the office. If you want to come get it. And so I called him up and he was like, yeah, we're about an hour away wherever their home office is in sort of central Massachusetts. So I jumped in an Uber and I went out there, and it was sitting like this just on a conference table, and I didn't know if he'd let me take it. He was like, yeah, you sent us the message, so you guys found it, so go take it. And then after that it was pretty much because he hadn't dug up all the pieces. It had been like maybe this piece, I'm forgetting which pieces.
So how much time did it take to get all this uncovered?
It took, basically I went back in 24 hours. I talked to the CEO and I was like, there's a lot more of it, and also the key. And I kind of walked him through the story, and he said, okay, I can probably rope it off for you for a couple days if you want to come back.
Okay.
So I think it was 2 mornings later that I came back at 6 a.m, and they put me in a construction hat and the top and everything, and I basically had brought along a little shovel, and I started digging for it, and a couple of the other construction guys started to help me out, which is why, if you remember, there were some pictures that sort of leaked in the community, and that was because it was basically a collective effort at that point between me and whoever else was just around the site who were like, hey, what's going on? And I'm like, yeah, we're looking, a little bit of treasure was dug up, and you want to help me dig for it? And they had better equipment, so we were all kind of piecing it together, and then I was sort of trying to figure out what to do, because we'd gotten there were just bits. So imagine like a 10-foot square area, and there were like bits and shards of it, and we were getting little pieces. But I was like, should really try to capture this in some sort of more meaningful way. I didn't quite know what to do. I was like, I can just post it on the Facebook page. I can contact George, and I figured the next best person to contact was Josh Gates. And so I sent out an email, like everyone. I've gotten a lot of people who've said, I've been trying to reach Josh Gates, I can't do it. And I did the exact same thing. I sent him an email actually the exact email they showed in the show, which had basically pictures of what I'd found, and said, I think I've uncovered I know I've uncovered the Casque, And I sent it off to him, and I was sure like an hour later I was going to get a response from him like, dude, you found it. Nothing. So so then I contacted my brother. So I'm fortunate enough that my brother actually works in reality TV, which has nothing to do with this. He just happens to live in LA and work in reality TV, and he knows a lot of the people at a lot of those networks. So I said, hey, I told him the story, and I said, hey, can you see if you can get a hold of Discovery Channel, because I'd love them to, I don't know, chronicle it or do whatever. And so he did. He got in touch with the executive producer at Expedition Unknown. And then he called me back a few hours later and said, yeah, I told them what you found. I sent them some pictures. They're not interested. I was like, they're not interested? Oh, man. Like, he said maybe they'd be interested in coming to LA in a few months, or that when they're out in Boston, they can do like a web video sort of thing and post it on their site. I was like, oh, all right. So now what? And so I'm actually that night, this is like 3 days later, we've got shards of the cast. There's still pieces of it in the ground. I go and sit down with my son. I'm putting him to bed. It's like 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night, and we're actually just talking about this, because this is like this big family thing that we've like uncovered this thing. It's a secret among us and a handful of people a handful of people who are there on the construction site. I don't quite know what to do, and I'm sitting there with him, and the phone rings, and it's an LA number that I don't recognize, and I pick it up, and it's Josh Gates. And that's where I really shit my pants. And so he's like, hey man, I heard you found something. I was like, yeah. And I'm like, to my son, I'm like, it's Josh Gates. So and you know, for me that was a big moment, because we'd found out about this entire thing from Expedition Unknown, and Josh Gates from the Boston area, somebody that I sort of looked up to, and so it was pretty amazing that he was there calling me. And he said he was in the Indian Ocean filming some other episode, and would it be okay if they flew 18 hours around the globe to chronicle us?
Yeah, he just like dropped everything, right?
Yeah, and so that's what he did.
No, it's not. No.
Right. Yeah. So so that whole scene where he said some breaking news and the story of the secret. And where he's at an airport, he's actually at the airport in whatever country he's in, filming it, because they were going to try and film this like breaking news. So
3 days later.
It was like 3 days later that he got a crew, and he came out and he was the director of this, which I thought was pretty amazing. So he had a crew of maybe 3-4 people and a production assistant and all the gear that needed to be used to shoot this in a high production way. But he was actually there directing all the shots and making sure that the sound was good, and you know, that he got the aerial shots and all that. So then 3 days later he was on site. I think it was that weekend, and they put together an episode. They only had one more episode left to air that year, and that was the final episode in October, and they ended up bumping whatever was scheduled, because they planned this stuff months and months in advance. So they put this all together in a period of like 2 to 3 weeks, from the time that it was found in the beginning of October to the time it aired in the last week of October, 2-3 weeks, which is really fast for them. And then they also, about 4 days later is when we went to New York to meet the family and all that. So it was just an extraordinary experience. And then, dug up the rest of the pieces and off we went. So yeah, thank you. So yeah, grateful for everyone coming. This is not at all a story about me. And so I don't need it to be. I mean, this was a story about sort of, family exploration and the community also, I think, really being a big inspiration for this. So, thank you all for being an important part of the community. And I think if it wasn't for the community, it wouldn't have been something that I would have been inspired by and interested in. So, thank you. I'm grateful for all of you coming from far away to kind of join me in celebrating this adventure. So I do really appreciate it. So on behalf of my kids and everyone else, thank you.
Yes.
But yeah, glad you all were able to come. And if there's time in a few minutes now that it's cleared out, I'd love to walk over to the dig site and get your perspective. There've been a couple of thoughts that I hadn't heard before about, and I'm learning things all the time about this. So it's been fun. What's that?
It is unbelievable. It's surreal.
Yeah, I'll see if I can.
That's the key, right?
That's the key.
Is that as delicate as the rest?
Yeah, I wouldn't touch any of it.
And what was this one for?
So this was actually what they gave us. I don't think that made it to air. So they gave us a pin and a shovel just as sort of a commemoration of it. That was from, I think that was from EU. Yeah. So I think they. So yeah, you can see it all has kind of the original dirt on it because I've been hesitant to wash it off. Right.
Not even touch that with a brush or anything.
The pieces of the key as well.
Yeah. So I actually didn't think that she'd let me keep the key. I thought it was literally, handing it off, and I expected that, but she said, no, you're good with hanging on to it. I think she hasn't spent actually that much time thinking about it in the years since he passed away. I think it was when we were there. It was really emotional for her because it
for everybody. I don't think there's a person in this place
right.
that did not cry watching that episode.
That was the first
yeah. And so I think for her, this is kind of a representation of his legacy.
Without a doubt.
George may know. I don't know what that tape is for. George, you know what that tape is for on the box?
Like 12
okay.
Did it say Boston on it at some point?
How much of the Casque do you think you have?
When I first got it, I was trying to turn it back into a box, and then I was like,
York is buried somewhere.
Right. Yeah, I was like little pieces of it were flaking off. Is that what was on it?
Yeah, that's what was on it.
Oh wow. Okay.
Amazing.
Yeah, so that didn't make the 40 years in the ground. So the idea was that if you found it, you were like, oh, that's the marker. And I don't know. I don't.
Confused with some other thing that was
Right. 3 feet under. Right. And George may know as well. I think there may have been a piece of metal connecting the two pieces of the key. So this is actually. It's a lion, but it's a little hard to tell.
For a good time, Byron Price.
Because I don't know.
Some might have metal and some don't. Some of
George, do you know what was in between? Was it a piece of metal?
Metal wire.
Oh, is this for me?
It's my personal one that I've destroyed, but you've given me such an experience. That's yours now.
Wow! Oh my gosh! Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That is
amazing. Do you happen to know which?
Thank you so much. I don't.
So I can give you digital. I've scanned that whole book, so I'll give you the scans and everything.
Wow! Thank you. That means so much. I really appreciate it. That's amazing. Thank you so much. This is incredible. Yeah. This is like the missing.
Can I touch it now?
You can go and juggle the pieces. So this is not lenticular though, right? That's really cool though. Well, thank you. That's amazing. I should be giving you guys something, not you giving me something. Well, thank you. I'm glad. Oh, thank you. Hey, nice to meet you. How are you? Thank you for coming out. Appreciate it.
This is Nadine and Kim. They're sort of OGs. Like everybody thinks that I'm the reason that the secret, like you can dig in the Fountain of Youth.
Right.
It's actually.
Oh wow, really?
Like they're my heroes.
Well then, if you're George's heroes, then you're my hero. So.
You want to walk into the park?
Yeah. So let me bring this back, and then we can walk over to the park. So if everyone's got it. What's that? No, I'm fine. I'm just right across the street here. The only other park that is within any walking distance of this place is Langone Park. So that's kind of where we went once we used this as a starting point. I still do not know if the 5 wharfs were what they talked about in the episode, or if it's 5 blocks, or 5 bus stops, or I could be
steps along the Freedom Trail. No, let me ask you this.
Or could be. Or,
do you believe in that 5 steps they showed on the show?
I believe that's a possibility. I mean, it is more like 6 or 7 wharfs, so it's a little bit of a. You gotta have some creative thinking to kind of get there, but.
John at least said that it was in the hair. The wharfs were in the hair. So.
I think it's a strong possibility. I don't know what else it would be, right? If this was actually a starting point, there's no 5 other steps, and they do sort of look like steps. So I'm willing to believe it's reasonable.
I'm in your fan group. Plausible.
See, I was wondering how many of those markers that they have on the ground, the medallions where they do survey markers.
Maybe. Yeah.
The Freedom Trail. Yeah, I was wondering if there's any of those
sometimes with the treasure hunt too, you have like multiple clues that'll lead you to the same spot. So
Right.
sometimes they're all kind of vague.
Well,
People can end up to the same spot.
and the whole and the whole Thucydides and Xenophon always like still throws me off. I don't know why. That's the beginning of the verse.
If it was north, but then it's not. It's north.
Right. That
You have to go opposite.
that caused me so much anxiety with that word construct.
Know to look for that?
For
If you didn't do the library, how would you know to look for that other thing?
I mean, like, there's 600 names on that library. I mean, Thucydides and Xenophon, one is not north of the other, number one. They're not in the correct order according to the verse. And there are just so many names there. You'd have to sit there all day and just read them to find.
If you went to your local library and you looked those two names up, you would have understood that the reference was Boston and New York.
But even if you look those two names up, you don't learn. If you just read the verse and do exactly
All right, calendar guy.
Calendar guy, yeah. You get
demote me now.
You already know Boston.
Yeah, calendar guy.
Just what that line says. Thucydides
I really
is north
want
of Xenophon, take
people
5 steps in the area of his
find
direction.
this
Whose
guy.
is
That-
north,
that's
take
what-
5 steps. North end. That's all you need
he
to
wasn't
know
being nice before.
to get an entire area of the city.
Yeah.
You know, you don't need to know about the cities. You don't need to know about Xenophon. You don't need to know anything about that.
Cleveland, though.
flow.
Cleveland seems like you could solve that today if it was. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right,
If you
right.
came across it, no, it's got to be right here.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and those guys I think said that they found it because it was sort of the beginning days of the web,
Yeah,
and
the
there
web,
was
right,
and
right,
they,
yeah,
they
yeah.
used that in a way that hadn't been really used before.
Last time I was here, it was here.
Stand up there.
See what I'm carrying, man? I would do that for you, but here, let me help you up. Come on.
So,
Oh, come on, Destiny. We're gonna have a good pose with it.
all right. Well, you want to walk to the alleged wharfs? We'll see if that's.
Let's go, brother.
All right. So that's right down here.
Posting a lot. I don't have anything for the community. So anything that you get, if you could post a lot. So one of these days, after this is all over, I have to get you to sit down and talk everybody.
Oh yeah, I'd be happy to do that. This is, yeah. If you want me to come on one of your.
I really think people would be more receptive to what you have to say than you think. I think people would be a lot kinder than you think.
Yeah. No, I think. No, I think now that the dust is well settled, I don't think I was ready to do it in 2019. But yeah, I just felt I was just hit with a lot of kind of derogatory messages right after. I'd say probably 95% of them were positive, but there were a bunch of people in there who were just kind of being abusive and didn't need to expose my kids to it, and and then there's the whole element with kind of the production of the show and all that I didn't want to get into. So they're going to one is freshman, the other one is rising. So yeah, they're no longer. When you look at pictures of them from then, they look like little kids, and now they look like sort of teenagers and young adults. So it goes fast in 3-4 years.
Mine just turned 13.
Yeah.
It's such a pain.
Yeah, it doesn't take long.
I wonder, I didn't start doing it, but I wonder if you're not looking at that. Do you count $5?
It is. So when they did it on Discovery Channel, they kind of grouped one or two of them together, but it is pretty close to 5. Right, and he does show, you're right, he shows the wharfs in her hair, so like, or I guess across from whatever it is, wherever that is in here. Yeah, I guess like.
Well, I mean, it would make sense, given how John did like Chicago, where just about every important line in the verse had something to illustrate it in between.
Yeah.
So if 5 steps referred to wharfs, it would make sense that it was in the beginning.
Yeah.
No, it's
So one of the wharfs is down here. We don't have to walk down all of them, but we can just walk down one of them just to give people a sense of it. Yeah, here, we can just wander down this way. You know, I guess there was this park as well. I don't know if this existed in 1981, but it's definitely private property, so I never really considered it, and it's not like as iconic as the other one. I mean, it was literally from Copp's Hill Terrace. So Paul Revere's house is right behind Copp's Hill Terrace. Copp's Hill Terrace wasn't there in 1775, but he would have had to have gone down whatever pathway was there and cross over home plate in order to actually get to the water where he was beginning the ride. And so, like, I presume it is, yeah. Yeah, so this is you can probably almost see my office building. This was the way that I used to either walk or jog every day for like 6 months. I would just take off from the office, kind of come down here. It's a pretty nice walk along the water. I'd do it in the winter and the summer and literally cross through Langone Park. That was the loop that I always took. It always ended, it was up and down these wharfs. It ended in Langone Park. I'd do a loop around the water, and it's about, 2-3 mile loop all the way around. So I'd do that pretty much consistently every single day. So I get to know this area pretty well, and the secret was definitely like in the back of my mind as I was doing this. And yeah, and then it was it was one June day. I think it was actually the anniversary of Byron's death. Yeah. That was the day that I actually talked to the construction crew. Not to add a little bit of kind of strange karma to this, but yeah, I think it was the I don't know, whatever it is, the 14th, 15th anniversary of his death was the day in which I just happened to come across the construction foreman as he was leaving for the day. So a little bit of added mystique. Yeah, so I'm just wandering here. We're just kind of walking down. These are the wharfs. So, yeah, these are actually the steps. Even though they don't really feel that way, you'd see them more from the map. But this is one, and that one's another one. Yeah, but these are all, wharfs built out into the water. So, I think this pier is technically a different name than this pier, but you could group them together and say, rather than it being 1 and 2, this together is 1, because when you're walking it certainly feels like 1. So, that's where you can make an argument that it's, 5 rather than 6 or 7, and I think there are 6 or 7 independently named wharfs.
That's pocket change, man. Exactly. I think it's not a pocket deep.
There you go.
Oh, dear.
Oh, look, tribute benches.
A lot of these, pretty much all of these light posts have these little flowers on the top of them. Mm-hmm. Not just here, but it's specific to these wharfs in Langone Park. And now I'm forgetting what it was, but there's something at the time that made me think that those flowers were tied into. Oh yeah, that's what I thought.
Oh yeah.
I thought that was maybe related to these little flower. Yeah, so I did this pretty much, I walked or jogged this pretty much every day for 6 months or a year. So yeah, my office was right down there, and I used to take off either at lunch or at the end of the day and just looking for a quiet place to walk or jog. This was, about as nice an area as you can kind of find down here.
These benches, there was a set. They're made by Frederick Olmsted, designed them.
Oh, yeah?
Spare benches from 1932. There was one right in front of the planter.
So do you think that's a tie-in to?
A lot of people think that Olmsted, because he designed a lot of the parks, that these are supposedly very
Interesting. Do you think there's a meta secret to the secret? Right, I don't hear that talked about that much. I mean, it's called The Secret, but is it all tied together in some sort of big way?
I mean, I used to think so, but the more I talk to people that worked on the book, it just seemed put together in a real happenstance sort of way.
Yeah.
And there didn't seem to be too much, like enough thought for there to be a meta.
Yeah. I mean, why is it called The Secret, right? Is that's sort of what makes me think that there's a metagame, that when it all comes together, that there is a secret that you are supposed to decode. I don't know if it's a 13th treasure or something else that...
Tree Fairy is the 13th story, at least.
Sure. So, I
It's supposed to be in New Hampshire.
I mean, there's some evidence that there's something bigger. In one of the John's interviews, so the ring around the back of the Boston, it's got the design. He said that we're not meant to have figured that out yet.
Yeah, that's right. An interlocking pattern or something.
You mean this over here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never known what that is.
So it's like, what do you mean we're not meant to figure it out?
Porthole in there.
It's only been 42 years.
Okay.
Well, so I had thought that this was maybe a planetarium, and that's why we were looking at Boston University, because BU has a big planetarium, and also you've got All the Letters Are Here to See, which is Martin Luther King has basically all of his letters endowed to Boston University. So we had thought that was a likely spot, but yeah, this has never made any sense to me. This half of the page, and it's...
So the port, just so y'all know what I came across, was over there at Harvard Medical University. There's some circles with cement around it, and I was just like, that's too much of a coincidence. So it's nowhere near north, and that's the only thing I could see. But whenever they started talking about when you found it, I started thinking about the ship with the flags on it.
Right.
And maybe it was a porthole. So
that's a possibility as well. All right, so how many more wharfs do people want to do? We can just walk them all. Yeah, I mean
Whatever you want.
I mean, yeah, the park is just right up there. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You've seen one wharf, you've seen all wharfs.
All right. No, we can probably just walk straight to the park and.
But these are all part of the painting. You're saying is all these wharfs going out.
They're in a group, though.
Yeah.
At least that's what John said.
What did any of it get you from here to this point? Was it just the wharfs?
That's what I got stuck on, right? It's 5. I was pretty confident it was in that park, just because there's no other park within walking distance of the Christopher Columbus statue. But then I was like, what are the 5 steps? So it's not really 5 blocks. It's not really like 5 bus stops. It's kind of 5 or 6 or 7 wharfs. So that was my best guess. I mean, there have been other people who say the wharfs have nothing to do with it, right? You're supposed to start at Paul Revere's house and walk down. So I just don't know. It's funny.
Where is Revere's house in reference to here?
What's that?
Revere's house in reference to here.
So it's right. When we get to the park, you'll see it. So it is literally right behind where the ballpark is, and Paul Revere would have had to, on April 18th at midnight, to make his famous midnight ride, would have had to have crossed over home plate to get down to the water. And that was the thing that sort of sealed it when my daughter, who was 9 and studying revolutionary
American
history, right? Basically knew that this was a pretty important part of American history, which was this idea of Paul Revere actually being in that exact spot, whatever it was, several hundred years ago. So that was an important component of our explanation as to how it all tied together. But yeah, there's a lot of Paul Revere imagery in it, and Paul Revere would have had to have crossed over at some point in his lifetime, especially maybe the most important moment of his lifetime, pretty much right where to home plate. He would have had to home plate is literally right behind the path. So we don't have to walk all these wharfs, but these are the 5 wharfs that go up and down, that all go along the water.
And have you actually mapped those out to be that specific to the hair of the painting to match the wharfs?
John said it was.
John said it was, yeah. So yeah, I mean, if John says it was, then
I'm just asking a question, George.
then I believe it.
So the hard thing about the warps is using it in a path. You're assuming that you start at Christopher Columbus, and if John's saying that's not Christopher Columbus,
where do you start?
Where do you start?
So has he been pretty definitive that that's not Christopher Columbus?
Yeah.
So
it was a model that he's used for other paintings. Didn't tell me your name, but yeah, he was like unusable. Because nobody is just a model.
It does have a pretty similar facial structure. So, all right, we can throw out my theory then.
What the heck? Was it in the final interview? Because I asked him if any of the paintings were modeled after anybody, and he was like, kind of. They have models,
right?
But they're not modeled after like statues.
His brother or something? Was this Cleveland?
Yeah.
He did say that the castle-like structure, which I always got hung up on. I thought that was so critical. This thing that looks like a castle with a turret.
Yeah, it was like nothing.
He said that it was modeled after a college it may have been at Brandeis, some college in sort of the suburbs of Boston, that was just meant to orient you to it being in the Boston area, but wasn't a specific landmark. And that was the other reason that we thought that BU, Boston University, was a likely candidate for where it was, because there is a castle that looks a ton like this right on the waterfront near where Martin Luther King has his letters and so forth. So we definitely spent time kind of probing over there, but that turned out to be a red herring, as we've learned.
That's good. It kind of expands on, because he told me it wasn't important, but when they were painting it, they knew that was going to be the cover, but they didn't have a design for the casque.
Okay.
So it needed to be elaborate. It wasn't necessarily.
Yeah, so I think Byron must have sent him a picture of a castle type building in the greater Boston area, and he just used that as an inspiration, but it was... and do you have any sense of what the serpentine...
Yes.
I actually don't know what this is, what all this is down here.
The big S?
Yeah.
No idea.
Because that was a reason that a lot of people thought it was the...
It was a Charles Gate.
Yeah.
They had that big elaborate...
Well,
that's
there's
also on the building next to the Paul Revere house.
And there's...
Do you have any theories about the interlocking pattern?
Yeah, because he basically said that in the newspaper. Byron said that at some point in one of those clippings. I think it's on 12 print. I got most of my source from it.
I mean, John thought there was one way.
Oh, interesting. Where's that?
Next to the Paul Revere house.
Oh, right over here.
Yeah.
No, well that may be it.
Maybe
That's
turn it that way.
That's totally it. No, I mean, it may very well be.
I just found out yesterday.
No, I mean it may very well be that it is supposed to start at the Paul Revere house. You're supposed to take the 5 steps down the Cops Hill Terrace over here, and then end up right at that location. So, I mean, clearly there are a few different ways to get there. But I think the most obvious one is forget about the directions to get from point A to point Z. It's actually when you're in this park is where it really comes.
And where Z reveals itself, yeah.
Where it really comes together. So yeah, we can keep going down a little bit.
Do you have John's contact info?
I don't know. Okay, thanks.
Because he, like, when you solve one, he doesn't mind.
Yeah,
he's a little looser. So
well, I've been sort of asking people to leave me alone, so I'll leave him alone. So, and this is the guy who was killed, right? In 1976, and this was a relatively big story still at the time.
It's always cool to break to the night.
And so that was the notion of the truth be free reference, that he went to Harvard and he was sort of even though he's a young guy, right? Yeah.
Same thing within the Hampshire Park. Not that I'm going to go into my personal solves, but not really a solution till you find something, I guess.
So I guess we're not going to be able to stand on home plate, but we'll get close to it.
Yep. I stood out there earlier checking the.
So there were 3 parks here at one point.
Right.
So 1 and then 2. Yeah. So basically, this is more or less the spot. Basically right here. So it's probably about as close as we can get. Watch the Little League game. Basically, this was more or less home plate right here.
Say it again?
Home plate was pretty much right here. So there were 3 parks.
Did they change it?
They changed it. Yeah, they had 3 and now they're down to 2. And so basically
I always thought it was 2.
Yeah, so basically this is a spot. I don't know exactly where it was. Maybe it's sort of the intersection of where the red and white line is roughly where home plate was.
Is this where it was found?
This is where it was found, yeah.
Oh wow, right here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so the gods are agreeing or disagreeing with
Yeah, like, no, it was not found.
Thank you. Welcome to New England.
Oh, thank you. This is the. I'm all right. This is the.
So I had no clue that it was right there. Come on.
Yeah.
Come
This.
Oh, thank you.
One more is coming. So, real quick, Jason.
Yeah.
Most people think it was that one over there.
I think it was.
And I did not know there was one here before they started digging everything up. Right?
So there are 3 parks. There was one there, one in the middle, and one on that side. So there were basically 3 parks, and then I don't know if I have it in here or not, but.
And you know, if that gets wilted enough, you don't want to carry it, I can take it.
Yeah, I don't think I have a picture of it anymore.
If you don't have it figured out, I love having fun, so there you go.
Yeah, so let's see. Yeah, so there's the bocce ball courts, which are still over there.
Yes. I went there yesterday
Did you?
morning and
Okay.
took some pictures, so it was nice to see the grit, you know, the different texture that's over there.
Yeah. One more hit of weather.
No, they spraying something.
Hey, you're my best friend. Calendar guy here.
Calendar guy.
Calendar guy. Is that what we're calling you now?
Hyper focus guy here. So if you didn't know, George was kind enough to take I have high detailed scans of the book you have now, and I have taken and I would like black out certain parts, and we call it hyper focus. So he put it on 12 treasures. So
Okay.
Yeah.
That's actually interesting to know.
yeah.
So yeah, I can point out for anybody who's interested. There are a couple of spots. Sorry, I'll just slide over here. So home plate was home plate. Oh sure.
For you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So home plate was sort of roughly where the red line and the white line intersect. And kind of as you can see, most of the landmarks, and this was in the episode, are pretty clear from pretty much this point. So you've got the Tobin Bridge, which is kind of that structure that is behind that large building. When you're further over one side or the other, you can see it. But basically, it's that green bridge that.
I think that's really the top of the painting.
Well, so you can go through. So the green tower lights are one of two things. It's either that. I actually had originally thought that it was these towers over here. I don't know if they've replaced them since, but you could see, at least when I was here in 2019, that originally they'd been painted more of a green color. So I had thought that those were the green tower lights. So you had three ballparks. You had one over here, one in the middle section right over here, and a third one over here. And then it says face the water, which we're obviously doing. You're back to the stairs, which are the Cops Hill Terrace. These stairs over here. So, when you're standing at pretty much exactly that point, you've got the harbor in front of you. You're facing the water. You've got your back to the stairs. You've got these giant green tower of lights, at least as they were in 1981. And we can't quite see it from this angle, but we can walk over there. Right to the other side of this backstop is the Storetti Rink, which is the Coliseum with metal walls. So, yeah, I mean, kind of when you're out at that spot, you've got most of the landmarks. And then you can see, it's not flying right now, but if you see that boat that's right across the harbor there, that old boat, that's USS Constitution. That's the oldest commissioned naval ship that's still in operation. And that's where the signal flags would have been flying on a nicer day. So you've got all the letters that are here to see, water, steps, middle section, home plate, green tower of lights.
That monument has nothing to do with it either, right?
So that's the Bunker Hill Monument, which is a very famous Boston monument, and that always perplexed me, and maybe George or someone else knows why that didn't make it into, why the Bunker Hill Monument didn't make it into the. Yeah.
Too obvious, maybe.
The other really interesting component about this spot is this is where the Great Molasses Flood was, and you'll see a couple of plaques about it, and that was the sugar flood at the turn of the century that killed a bunch of people. So that always. Yeah, which that always surprised me as something that you would think he would have referenced because it's sort of obscure and it is relevant to this spot. And as we were digging up things here with the construction crew, one of the things that they mentioned was that there's all sorts of crap in the ground, especially around here, that they've been digging up the entire time because literally this entire neighborhood was kind of buried and dug up 100 years ago. So he said that it wasn't at all unusual. In fact, even when we were digging, we were finding like little pieces of pottery and other pieces of broken glass and things that were probably from the molasses flood at the turn of the century. And so it's definitely possible that if he had dug up the treasure box and the plexiglass and didn't know that it was there, he would have just thought it was another piece of junk that that was in the ground from 100 years earlier. So it was sort of fortunate that he actually stopped to recognize that was something of some significance to some people.
Is there anything to do with, I remember an interview where Byron would take words up the side of buildings, and would there have been words on the side of this building right here back in the day?
There were, there were, yes. So there were. I've seen some old pictures of it. There were some like old advertisements, I think, painted on the side of this building, and potentially that's what was there in 1981, but maybe not.
There's a plaque for the molasses.
There's a plaque for the molasses flood, yeah. And
but I don't know what a match that is. And the bocce ball courts are back there.
Yeah, and the stonework on Cops Hill Terrace does look a ton like, I mean, granted you have this kind of stonework in lots of places, but it's not at all dissimilar to the stonework there. So that's, we did hear from his widow that he was a big fan of bocce ball, so that did make it into these balls.
That's something I learned today.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, she told us that these balls, or these spheres, were actually meant to be bocce balls.
Okay.
And then I showed you, mentioned this to a couple of people, but these pedestals over here, I had always thought were a pedestal that had since been taken down, but where it was here when I was searching with my family. So somewhere back in this area, there were a couple of little structures, right? So there's a pedestal here, and that to me always looked like the top of this white structure over here. Don't know.
I've seen that at the two circles, if you know what that is.
I do, yeah.
And I was amazed because I was like, oh, this is it.
Yeah.
Boy, was I wrong.
So yeah, I mean, so these were pictures I took way before. The other thing that I thought was interesting is at the top of this pedestal is this sundial, and I had always thought that the figure and the shape of the woman was similar to the sundial and the hourglass. So again,
a lot of shadow on her face.
so yeah, maybe right, may not be, but that always struck me as something that was a possibility. So so this was a spot here, and it was, I think, a little more obvious when you had 3 ballparks and home plate. Now since it's been redone, and it was all grass, so clearly it was something that you could dig, and the park itself, at least by 2019, was pretty beat up, which is why they redid it. But
was it contaminated? Is that why they got rid of all the
no,
dirt?
they were trying to. The sea levels are rising.
Oh.
So that's what the construction crew, they were actually raising the height of the entire park by a foot or two, and then they put up some additional seawalls and things. Otherwise, the prediction is that parts of Boston, and specifically this park, will be underwater.
Okay. Understood.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, it's a beeline to Paul Revere's house directly up these stairs, right? So Paul Revere in 1775, when he was making his famous midnight ride, would have come down where those steps are now, crossed. It's a pretty narrow path, right? I mean, his house is like right back there. He would have come down this path, crossed over home plate to get to the harbor, where he was basically telling his associates that the British were coming. So I mean, I have to imagine that with a reference to 18th day, 12th hour, that Byron knew that's where he would have taken his ride, and that he would have crossed over home plate.
I thought In Truth Be Free was in relation to that as well.
It may very well have been. So yeah, I mean, we'll never know some of the details forever, but it just seems like as someone.
George wants to tell us.
Yeah, sorry, I do not have an NDA. No, for real, I do.
All right, awesome.
So yeah, that's what I got on this one.
So where do you think it is?
Where do you think
yeah, right. We haven't had any truthers here yet today, so.
I know, right? I could play that part. I came across the site. It was like, I don't think it's been found yet. I'm like,
yeah, well, that's.
Drama.
Now, there was somebody else that was on the trail, though, right? Same time period? But at least that's what I've read. I don't know if it's true.
There's a guy on Reddit, yeah. But there was a lot of people, like, it was really weird that all at once this park popped up. And there was like 4 or 5 people. But that's kind of how it
yeah,
happens.
I went
True. There's probably plenty of us on the correct areas to begin with, but
yeah,
we just don't know.
A lot of people, and like,
Good
Jason,
job.
a little
thank
bit
you.
of Jason. People don't talk about their ideas online as much.
Right.
So when somebody does, everybody else latches onto it, and just because they were talking about it online doesn't mean he wasn't working on it for a year. You know what I'm saying? He just wasn't talking. So saying there was also someone here first is not exactly true.
Doubt what you're saying at all.
And I'm sure once they saw construction happening here, everyone everyone panicked.
Anytime construction happens in a city, they're like, everybody
Well,
go
you
talk
saw
to
it on your Reddit. Somebody posted a picture. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? And they were like, there's a little, sectioned off. And I'm like, who thinks it's here? I had no clue.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people didn't think it was here.
Yeah, there are three landmarks that I couldn't find anywhere else, or that my family and I couldn't find anywhere else in Boston, which was water in front of you, stairs behind you,
This is perfect match.
green tower of lights, and then again we can take a walk around the corner. But that ice rink is such an unusual design. It is metal walls, and so like that to me was like the key. Which you've got water, stairs, green tower of lights. Forget about the Tobin Bridge. Just these structures over here that were green, and then a Colosseum and all the Paul Revere imagery.
Yeah.
Like it kind of like where else is it going to be?
So over at MIT, there's a building called the Green Building, and that's where I was for a bit. Green Tower of Lights.
Yeah.
It lights up at night, and I was like, oh, maybe, because there's a big oval of grass there, and I was just like, maybe.
Well, that was like why I was tentative to talk to the construction workers, because while it feels like this is a spot, there's just as good a chance that it's not. I mean, we hadn't been to anything else that had water, stairs, green tower flights, metal coliseum, but there might be, and like, you know, to tell him to go and dig carefully below home plate, some crazy guy, right? Like,
would have the balls to dig this up if he thought it was there.
What?
I don't know.
He would. Yeah, absolutely. You do it secretly,
Things were
right?
different then, though. It was
4
right,
o'clock
it
in
was
the morning?
just
Well, I mean, like, within the 2019.
I would dig it right now.
I'd dig it right now, too. I know that if I found it, I'd be like, I don't know. I think it's there, but I wouldn't do it.
Byron gave me permission.
So how long was it between when it was found and you filmed the show?
Oh, yeah.
3 weeks, 4 weeks. I mean, they covered it like breaking
I
news.
thought it was like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was beginning of October, and I think the show was like, I think maybe I got the text message from them like October 5th, and the show was on October 30th, in that neighborhood, right around there. So yeah, I mean, and that's not the Discovery Channel is not, especially Expedition Known, is not set up for like breaking news. They, you know, they do production over the course of 6-9 months. It takes to get permits, to get filming locations, like, you know, it takes forever. So the fact that Josh, was here within 3 or 4 days to shoot it, and then they had to do all the post editing and put it all together, it's pretty remarkable that and the reason that they were rushing it was because we had a limited window to actually do the dig. The CEO was nice enough to say, hey, we'll let you kind of come and dig for the fragments, but I can't block this off forever because this is an active construction site and we need to get the pipe that we need to get and do the other things. So, he said, well, let us know, we'll give you a week or two. But that was why some of the urgency was there. I also was concerned that word was going to start to get out and there were going to be lots of other people kind of picking through it. Not that I cared that much, but I thought that it would impact the sort of integrity of the story, and it was nice to just package it up in one kind of cohesive way. So,
did you know any of the people that were wearing the vest trying to get in?
Yeah.
I don't need names. I'm just wondering if it was because I remember on the podcast
It was my fault. I said them.
I would have done the same damn thing.
Well, look, I sent one, and one called the other, and that one had a troublemaker with him, brought another, and it was like, it was a
Because listening
domino
to it,
effect.
it was like, oh, you've got assholes trying to come in. I'm like, they're not assholes.
So-
They're diehard fans.
Sometimes you got people in your life that you think you can call and be like, hey, go here and keep it quiet. And they're going to do it, but they don't.
Understood.
Josh wanted to keep it sort of as close to the vest as he could, just to kind of make it breaking news. But word started to leak out, and that was fine.
I think so. The contractors that we're working for were all under NDA, except for one guy that they didn't put under NDA, and that's where all of like the photos of everything was coming from. So we had pictures. I think with the timeline, we had photos of the Casque before he knew it was out of the ground.
Oh, wow.
And in fact, when I shared one with you the other day, you've never seen before.
See, I didn't know about that. That's pretty cool to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying
To
to
learn that it was on a bench.
Yeah,
sitting there on a bench.
Just sitting
Yeah,
there.
so he dug it up, like basically right there, that spot, that intersection. He took the plexiglass, he took 4 or 5 pieces, and there were just some little benches here that he went and tossed it on. And it was just sitting here for the weekend until the CEO decided to come by. The CEO of this company rarely came by the site. He decided that he was nearby because his daughter, he had to drop off at Logan Airport, decided he'd wander onto the field, and that Sunday he just was wandering around this, and they did this entire space all the way down to the park goes pretty far down, and he just, of all the spots that he could walk around, found himself wandering over to this bench. And then it's this big multi-million-dollar construction firm. He was like, I think somebody was looking for that, I'm not sure. And so he picked it up and brought it back to his conference room, and then they texted me. I'm trying to find the actual text they sent, which was kind of fun.
There was a huge fence, like a construction zone fence.
see that, yeah.
All around the whole
Could get it easy.
I don't think so.
Yeah, so
Unless George was here, he would
Unless you
have
climbed a big fence.
Yeah.
so
If you knew about it, you might.
So they were doing construction here for probably 4 months, I'd guess, at least. I mean, the entire project was like a 2-year project, but it was probably 4 months from the time that 3-4 months from the time that they put up the fence-ish to the time that I actually talked to one of the foremen. I just was kind of, maybe it wasn't quite that long, but it was it was still a few months. It was like, I just was sort of not quite. I was like, yeah, it's probably here, but again, I'd have to, this was all fenced off with construction fencing, a lot of do not enter signs, private property, and the foreman's shop was like, the equivalent of like where that structure is. So like, am I going to go wander across the park telling them that there might be buried treasure below home plate? So I was like, yeah. Instead, what I would do is I'd just kind of peek in as I would walk or jog by to see if maybe somebody had dug it up. Yeah, I'm trying to find the text message he actually sent me.
Yeah, me too.
Nah, I don't know where it is.
Exciting time. I'm still, I'm blunt, so I'm still dumbfounded about something being right here. Because in my world, it was where that home plate is over there, and you're telling me it was right here.
Yeah, it was right here.
It's really weird.
There are 3 parks.
I can't see that.
Yeah.
Because I've looked at like Google Maps.
Yeah, look, the old map. I thought it was just the 2. Like you said, I thought it was still over there.
No clue. I really, it's hard to think about that. So.
Yeah.
Because I came out over here yesterday. I'm like, oh, it's near home plate over here.
Right. That's
and
what.
Now you're like,
no, that's right. That's right. Well, that's what you think. But there were 3 smaller baseball fields. One was. I'm not totally sure if they. It may have been that the area for these 3 parks went out a little bit further that direction. I'm not sure exactly, but there was enough room for 3 parks certainly at the time. Or there may have been the 3rd one. I'm forgetting now. The 3rd one may have been like on the other side of the bocce courts, but either way, the middle one was right here.
You've been doing all the walk-in, talk-in, and all that. So.
Yeah. No, I'm trying to find this.
Oh, okay. If you're from out of town, you can tour the Constitution.
I did it this morning.
So
cool.
Secret of the secret time.
Yeah.
Anything that you haven't told anybody that you want to dispel?
I don't think so. I mean, tried to be pretty. Tried to be pretty transparent about it.
Because I know you've gotten tons of stuff like, well, I thought this piece of property led to here and all that. Like, I've seen video of in the 80s where they had steel like tin roof pieces on the fence.
Yeah.
Where people were trying to say that was, where you're saying the Colosseum and all that. So there's so many different stories.
No, I think I think pretty much what we've heard today and on the show is pretty accurate. Yeah, I mean, Discovery. I mean, they told me right from the beginning that they consider themselves, sort of documentarians of things that happen. So yeah, do they do some things for TV to just kind of tell the story? But Josh was pretty clear with me from the beginning that that they're there to capture the story.
Right.
And so
and that's what they did. It was perfect.
Yeah.
Like,
So
I don't know if you heard Nicholas. A lot of us cried when it was found. Seriously,
Yeah.
It was like, because everybody tries hard,
right.
And then you do it, and then your family's involved. It's so wonderful.
Yeah, well, it was nice that it was kind of the family adventure, and that was an important part for them as well, to be able to kind of capture that story.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Did you ever notice the zip code that was in the painting backwards?
I had
055 something. Yeah.
1334.
I think I'd seen people talk about that online, but wherever I don't remember where it is, but that's a bad. Oh, you're right.
02113 or whatever it is, which was brought up by Adrian.
What's that?
Well,
circles is where it points.
The other possibility. The other possibility.
Adrian Trasnicki found that like
the 2 for me was
probably about a year before.
You're right.
It's backwards.
I thought it was a 5, but
I can't remember if I showed this to you or someone else, but the other possibility is that regulation bocce balls are 4.2 inches in diameter, and regulation bocce ball court is 91 feet. So this is Monday morning quarterbacking. So I don't know if that's actually what he had. I just know that she said that bocce ball was an important part of his life for whatever reason, and potentially one of the reasons that he buried it right here is because right on the other side of that fence there are bocce ball courts, which are tied to Italian imagery and immigration and all that kind of stuff. So, who knows?
He
knows more than we do.
I know. I continue to guess at a lot of the stuff, and I guess we'll never kind of fully know all the intricacies of how he thought about this and put it together, but
Did you have time to spend when everybody was here? Did y'all like go out for dinner or anything?
you mean like when the Discovery crew was here? No, not really. No, that was
Palancar or
no Palancar.
Andy and them?
No, so Palancar flew in for maybe like for a day. I mean, he got in the morning, they picked him up, and then he flew out that same night. And Andy and those guys I mostly just talked to at that event. So no, I haven't really spent any meaningful time with any of them. I've talked to Kara Price, the daughter, a little bit, but that was just in the context of letting her know that we were doing a documentary and did she want to be involved. So I haven't really engaged with Sandy or the family in in any sort of meaningful way.
So I have a couple. So that was at the Brooklyn Historical Society in
Yes,
New York?
it was, yep.
Do you know who chose that as a location by any chance?
I believe it was the Discovery Channel.
Yeah, I thought Josh did.
But Josh was an active participant in a lot of this, right? So he was actually on site. He was the director. He was the one who did all the choreography. He was the one who made sure that we had all the shots. I mean, so he was the director of photography. He was the director. I think he had production assistants that actually picked out that location because they wanted something that felt like in Brooklyn, authentic, that sort of met the moment in the right sort of way. But I don't know that there's any specific. I mean, and I think that he would sometimes do his research in that spot, right? But that was the library of record near at least his Brooklyn home. So, that he had actually spent time in that, in that library, and that was, I think, part of the tie-in. But I didn't actually know that John was coming. I didn't actually know that any of the other searchers were coming, and I didn't know that the painting was going to be there. So all of that reaction, that was all done in one take. So I mean, sometimes for TV shows they'll do a second or third take just to do a close up of the reaction, but that was all basically live on camera. That was my reaction, the family's reaction. That was all just kind of they just rolled it. So that was a nice surprise that I think they set up intentionally to see if they could get an authentic reaction, which I think worked out.
Girls
worked out well.
Tearjerker, man.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It was the emotions to the
So you mentioned stuff about going down rabbit holes. Do you have any words of advice for people that get too deep into this sometimes? Like, we've all done it at least at one point.
Yeah. I mean, so
every day. What do you mean? I never stop.
So I mean, it's definitely possible to find one, and I think it takes a lot of luck, a lot of timing, but yeah, I mean, not to sound too cliche, but the clues are there, right? I mean, I think Andy and the Cleveland guys will tell you that kind of once they figured out where they thought it was, they hopped in a car and drove the 15 hours to go find one. I haven't been to any of the other sites, but I am a firm believer in what I think it was Kara Price said on one of the episodes, which is that when you're in the spot, you can see all of the things. And so when I've gone to some spots and I haven't done a lot of searching, but when I've traveled to New York on business and just wandered to spots and wondered, could this be here? I always keep that in the back of my mind because, again, it's not that obvious right now, but again, you've got like these 4 or 5 or 6 iconic things tied to the that sort of make you feel like if it's not here, then where else would it be? And so I think as you're thinking about Montreal or any other location, that like see if all the sort of iconic things are there, or if they're not there now, what was there back in 1981? And I guess that's the harder part, is that fortunately Boston's an old enough city that most of the symbols are still here 42 some odd years later. But I don't know that that's going to be the case in New York, where there's more construction, and in some places it's not quite as old a city, and so that's I think one of the big challenges. But
so do you actively work on any of the other puzzles?
I have thought about New York and San Francisco, but I haven't really actively searched, with the exception of kind of wandering by some locations that I thought were maybe possibilities when I've been kind of traveling there for business. But Boston was the only one that we really kind of put a really diligent effort, and I live about a half an hour, 45 minutes from the city, so it's not like we were here with my family every single weekend, but over the course of 2 or 3 years, every time we went into Boston, and specifically to this site, we were kind of poking and prodding around, trying to figure out if this could be the location. So I don't keep searching. I'd love to come to an event in Montreal or somewhere a year from now, where I'm asking you guys a lot of questions.
Before all the construction happened here, had you done any probing?
No.
Any physical, I think it's here, I need to...
So I think I mentioned to maybe 1 or 2 other people that when I sent the construction workers an email, I sent them, I think, 2 or 3 locations. First of all, I was nowhere near 100% sure it was in this park. I probably put my confidence at 20. Some days I was 100%, and other days I was 2%.
Okay.
I was second guessing myself to death, which is the reason I didn't talk to the construction workers initially, even though I walked by here every single day, because I would walk by and I'd sort of see some construction worker, and then I'd be like, no, this is crazy. There's no way that it's here. There's nowhere. There's so many people that are looking for this. I haven't figured it out, or my family hasn't figured it out in any way better than anyone else. And then there'd be other days where I'd be walking by and I'd be like, yeah, it's right fucking here. It is in this fucking spot. There's no other place that it could be. I've looked in enough spots in Boston.
Good to know.
So were there any other spots in the Boston area that you thought I need to get this type of communication with somebody going on?
There were 2 or 3 other locations that we pretty actively looked in. One was on the Charles River near Harvard University. That felt like it could be a good location because there's a long strip of park for miles that run along the Charles River, and then right behind it is the Harvard Coliseum, which looks like a Roman or Greek amphitheater. It's all these stone steps. It's made out of these sorts of structures or these sorts of stone, and it's sort of famous for people exercising by running up and down the steps. Right. It's a big dome, so it feels like stairs. You've got stairs behind you, you've got water in front of you, you've got Harvard, which is "In Truth Be Free," Veritas, which is their motto. So it seemed like 2 or 3 of the things felt right, but it didn't have the immigration story tied to it at all. It didn't have the Green Tower of Lights. It didn't have the Coliseum with metal walls. So, we thought about that as being a spot, but not nearly as strongly as this one. And then there was the Boston University site. And BU doesn't have a lot of greenery around it. It's actually fairly famous for being sort of an urban campus. So I didn't quite know where he would bury it, at least on public property. But it has Martin Luther King's letters stored there, which is, all the letters are here to see. And then there were, and there's statues that kind of look like the bird and so forth. So I was like, yeah, that's a possibility as well. The 3C location was the one that was sort of most famously put out there by the community as being the one. It's Charles Gate 3C. It's near Fenway Park, and there you would have the argument that it's near Fenway Park. But I never bought into that because the centerpiece of that solve is Green Tower of Lights, and that just seemed too obvious to me that he would call out the most famous wall in Boston as the Green Tower of Lights, and
It's on to the coach and a cop for welcome on the field.
Oh, really? Okay, that's great. Thank you. Oh, are they wrapping up? So yeah, we can.
What?
Just follow up with another question, if that's right.
Yeah, sure.
And I know it's a very controversial subject with the group. As far as immigration to the puzzle and or the dig site, how much do you tie that into where you found it and or other puzzles?
I think it's huge. I think that's where, if I was searching for another one, I would make sure that the immigration component was really close by to whatever your dig site is. Because we are in the North End, and I don't know if you guys know the city that well, but as soon as you walk up Copp's Hill Terrace, it feels like, you're in Italy. So we are at the edge of it, but essentially we're in the heart of the North End. And Boston is known for 2 immigration groups primarily, which is the Irish and Italian. Right. And so there is no destination. There's no little Ireland, but there is Little Italy, which is the North End. So it would seem that if he was going to tie each of the puzzles to an immigration group, which I believe he did, and he did it in Cleveland and Chicago, that he would pick the most sort of relevant immigration group to the city, and the most relevant immigration group to the city is
Not even to the city, just the dig spot.
right, but also in Boston. Like, I mean, again, it's Italian and Irish that sort of, are thought of as being the sort of the founders, the immigrant founders of Boston. And there's no real destination for Ireland, but there is a destination for Italy. And yeah, right. Well, so I mean, so there is Southie, but it's not.
Yeah,
it's not. It doesn't have the same kind of like.
No, you're right.
It's it's kind of a mix, and it doesn't have literally streets with one Italian restaurant after the next and gelato and old Italian guys sitting on stoops smoking cigarettes. I mean, you still find that in
right there.
right in Bocce, right? It's just it's a different sort of feel, and so yeah, that's one place. If I was looking for another one, that I would say, okay, if I'm in some location that's nowhere near an immigrant group, I'd be like a little suspect as to whether or not this is the right spot. Now, John has said that each puzzle is a little different and there are anomalies in each one. He's come up with different ways, that Byron came up with different ways. So maybe there are one or two that aren't tied to an immigration group, but I'd like to feel that he did. And then the other thing is, and I mentioned this on the episode, but it's, I think it's obvious, which is try and put yourself back in the shoes of somebody who is living in 1981 and didn't have GPS and didn't have Google and didn't have Google Earth and didn't have a cell phone. I mean, he probably went to that Brooklyn library, picked up a bunch of, microfilm, printed it out. That gave him some sense of the city. He was in, I think he
forgot about microfilm.
I think yeah, I'm dating myself. I think he
in the same boat.
I think he buried them all over the course of, I think it was George will know better. Was it a summer, just a summer, or did he do it over the course of a year or two? Or is that unknown?
It appears to be a couple of months.
Okay.
But he tells it differently, but the people who worked on the book say it was like a couple of months.
Right. So he's got to bury 12 over the course of the summer. And the summer is important because the ground is softer and he doesn't want to get arrested. And so he's going to try and find a slightly out of the way location. This, despite it sort of being, active and popular right now, is a lot less active than Christopher Columbus Park, which is the heart of the tourist area. This is a much more local park. And so you can imagine that if he went on an evening in July, a rainy day, or even in the middle of the night, that it'd be pretty quiet here, that he could probably get away with digging it. So that would be the other thing that I would think about, is put yourself back in his shoes in 1980, 81. What did he have access to? He had to get in and out. I think I mentioned to a few of you that Sandy Price said his favorite location in Boston was Faneuil Hall. And so I don't think that it was a lot more sophisticated than he went to Faneuil Hall, which he was familiar with. He had the Casque in his backpack, and he was either driving or walking around and thinking, where the heck can I bury this thing? And he wandered in a hurry, right? I'm only here for a couple days. He wandered over from Faneuil Hall looking for a spot, came across this ball field, which wasn't that crowded on that particular day, and for some reason decided to bury it below home plate. And did he bury it below home plate because it was the dirt was soft and it was easy to dig? Were they doing construction there at the time and he happened to just drop it into a hole? Did he think, we know he was a baseball fan, so did he think that the baseball tie-in or was somehow relevant? But again, I'm surmising here. I'm guessing that he didn't spend a ton of, because he had 12 to bury in 3 months, that he didn't spend a ton of time thinking about the location other than where can I get in, get out quick, where's a park, and where's something tied to an immigration group. And so it was sort of with that stuff in the back of our mind that we were like, yeah, this does seem like a pretty good spot because it's an out-of-the-way location. It's near an immigration group, and it's probably a place, and it's clearly, I've mentioned all the imagery around here, but it's clearly a place that he probably could have gotten away with as a, in the course of an hour or two, digging it and burying it and covering it back up.
Were these walls always here?
Yeah, so these walls were always here, and then I don't think I have pictures of it in my document, but there are like three or four like metal barriers to keep vehicles from coming in. But this was just an opening, and they replaced it with this fencing. So I had thought that. So I don't have a picture of it, but this thing over here, which is kind of like a pillar with a sphere on the top, looks almost identical to these barriers that were right here. So my guess is that this one over here was another.
That's why he jumped over
Maybe that's it. Yeah. So that may be another clue. So yeah. So if you find old pictures of so if you find old pictures, so I don't think, like, I guess another key would be, I don't think there is anything in any of these images or the verses that are extraneous or is a red herring. I mean, I think everything clearly has meaning. One of the problems is that some of it is just the location of the city. And I wish he would have just said, hey, it's in these 12 cities, because now you got all these red herrings. We're not sure if it's tied to the city or it's tied to the actual dig spot. But I mean, I think every single element has some sort of meaning, even if I guess we're learning later on that some of the things were John Jude Palancar filling in some empty space that was tied in some sort of less specific way to the actual location. And some of them clearly are harder, right? Like New York doesn't have a ton to go on. Like there's almost nothing in that image. My guess is New York, given that it was his hometown, is the hardest one, and the one that he wanted to make it as basically difficult to find as possible. That would be right. So my guess is, and that was one that he had the time to be most thoughtful about. So my guess is New York is going to be the one that is either never found or last found.
Well, that one's more verse heavy too. He said on that one interview that some of them are more painting heavy and some are more verse heavy.
He said that was more verse heavy, that one? Yeah. I mean, that would make sense.
He said some.
Yeah, I mean this
assuming that one for sure.
This one I think you can mostly solve without the painting at all. I think the painting helps to kind of reinforce that this is the actual location, but you don't. I was kind of mostly going off of the verse, right, which was Green Tower Lights and 18th Day, 12th Hour, and still don't really know what Thucydides and Xenophon means. Let's see if from my notes back then there's anything else. The conditional always screwed me up, right? Because like,
what do you mean if? Then it's not. Right. Then we do the opposite.
Well, so one of the things that made me think was I was like, is this a backwards puzzle? Do you have to start at the end, right? Do you start working backwards? Because is he putting that if then construction as a clue to say, wait a second, it's not north, it's south. Then you need to start from the bottom up. I had also thought, like, are there other? I guess another thing to think about is, are there other iconic things in the city? Because I think he was a real historian, and he wanted to tie the history of the city into the locations of. Yeah. So as you're thinking about it, what are the iconic parts of the history of the city that he maybe would have known about, that he would have tried to tie in? And clearly, about the most famous thing in Boston history is the American Revolution and Paul Revere. So it would be natural that he would think that was something sort of seminal and something that he wanted to tie into the hunt.
Following Salem Street, and she might be a witch.
I've heard that as well. And so, to throw out this entire solve, it is very possible that you start at Salem Street, that she's the witch, you wander down the 5 steps over here, and you find yourself in the middle of the ball field, and you can throw out everything else I've said. That's a legitimate and probably very reasonable solve. And so it may be, but yeah, those are, I guess, long-winded answer to your question. Right? It's like it's trying to think through all those things, and then hope you have a construction queue on site and get lucky. That's the other.
How was your wife?
Yeah, so she was she and the kids were have been a little resistant to the spotlight as well, but she was pretty. No, so not as much as me. I mean, she mostly thought I was nuts spending all this time on it. Yeah, so. Yeah, no, but the kids, the kids I think were more interested in it when they were little kids. They're now actually teenagers. So, this is kind of dad's embarrassing thing that they only want to think about a little.
Found the treasure?
But I've told them they should.
Tell people in school, or
right. Yeah, we did some assemblies at their school right after it was found. So that was fun for their schoolmates to we brought it up on the stage. We had the whole school there. They got to walk around, and I've done a couple of other assemblies at a few other schools where we've had we had one school that was doing a part of their reading assignment was sort of like discovery and treasure, and so they gave me a holler and wanted to see if I could come with the kids, and we went and showed the treasure in front of 600 kids at an elementary school. So that was fun. So yeah, that's been I haven't done a ton of else other than that, but yeah, we've done kind of bits and pieces where we've gotten to kind of share the fun with some other people, which has been nice. Do you guys want to see the actual? Walk onto the actual spot.
Do it.
And again, I'm guessing. Okay, I can probably tell you exactly. Let's see. I have an image of it here.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so.
Because also, like in the painting, the North Star right here.
So you guys can tell me as I may be off a little bit. I mean, it is somewhere. So this is where it was found. So there are three. Right now, there are only 2 fields.
But I always thought there was 2 fields.
Yeah. So
the Little League one was kind of.
Yeah, that image must be an old image that we're looking at.
So.
It's an old Google Earth.
Yeah, I didn't even look at the date.
Before the construction.
Yeah, right. So this is the old Google Earth. I mean, so we can. Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
the lights are gone now too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing it was here. It might have been closer to where. It might have been closer to. It was somewhere like right around here. Like, I mean, it might have been right here. I don't know. They've changed this so much since.
Can you see the stairs at all? No.
No.
The sidewalk here lines up with home plate almost.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It may be.
So, do you think it was near that home plate?
That one, yes.
I mean, I guess it's possible. I guess it's possible that it was. I think they moved the park a little bit. I mean, I have a.
Because they kept the same outside walls, Jason.
Maybe. I mean.
And the bocce ball courts, you would know this. Are they the same? And I'm only being.
No. I mean.
Because only you would know, because you remember all this.
Yeah, it's been 3.5 years.
Those bricks over there, were they there?
I don't know. I don't know what they moved.
You just said they were there.
Well, that's
Hold on, I'm gonna get my phone before. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I don't want to leave a treasure for another person.
Right.
Like,
oh, he's got all the secrets in his phone. I do it.
So I don't know. I guess I had thought. I mean, I don't know.
They were all put in at the same time.
I mean, I guess it. Maybe it actually was. Home plate was actually right here. So I mean this. Let's see. So we can triangulate it a little bit better. So. So maybe it actually maybe I'm wrong. So maybe it was actually. So you've got the basketball court over there, pretty much a straight right. So that's where the basketball court is. Assuming they didn't move that too much, then it's pretty much a straight line to home plate, and then you've got this building over here. So, so forget everything I said before. There's the spot.
The real truth comes out.
Head is home.
Because the problem I have is if it was here, was it? If you look in the painting, it's kind of saying it was the step was right, like this or something similar. I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm feeling like. I mean, again, maybe they moved the ballpark 10 feet or something, but
I was wondering about that. Might be a little bit off. I feel like
It was right here somewhere.
I feel like it's right here.
we're in the zone.
Yeah.
You can see it
Either way.
that way.
but
The matters for my New Hampshire song.
I was thinking 5 steps from home plate then too, right?
no, he told. So I came out here with a construction crew the day after they dug it up, and he walked over with me with some sort of device, like a GPR device and a compass device. And home plate, this was all just rubble at that point.
Talking about that stick with the thing on
Yeah. So he walked over here. I said, that was my first question. I said, was it actually buried below home plate? He was like, yes, it was actually buried below home plate. And he showed me on the map where they were digging. And he said that the reason they were digging below home plate was because they were trying to get to this one pipe. So he, as the guy who was actually digging, physically dug up home plate and then dug right below home plate, and that's where it was. So, I mean, was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 feet away? I guess that's possible, but he told me it was right, basically X marks the spot, which would make sense. So, but
We were arguing, no, you wouldn't do that because you could never put it back. But yeah, you could just dig sideways and then bury it underneath.
it's
Jason, there's original pictures out there where they're showing where the people were doing the batting, and you can see the trench where the feet were. And a lot of people thought it was right here, and I'm like, no, it'd have to be underneath because.
Yeah, I don't think you would put
So-
it where somebody would slide and
so-
possibly hit it, or you know.
No. So I mean, it was definitely about 3 feet below ground because that's how far the excavator was digging.
That's how deep the pipe.
He was digging for a pipe 3 feet below the ground. So when he's digging here, digging all sorts of crap out of the ground, old pottery and stuff, all of a sudden he hits a pretty shiny piece of plastic that pops out. And what he told me was like, that's a little odd. I haven't seen plastic. And then he did another scoop and 2 more pieces of plastic popped out. And then he actually got down, and in the pile of dirt that he just dug up, he started feeling around a little bit, and he found that one main piece of the treasure box that I showed you guys earlier today. And then he was like, oh, okay, this is probably what he was looking for.